the current model is about to be destroyed. But thousands of jobs are going to be created that no one really knows about because of this stuff.
Work is changing quickly, irreversibly, and often invisibly. I'm Chris Fanchi, and this show is about understanding where it's headed and how we stay human in the process. Hello and welcome to Human Work After AI, the show where we explore the future of work, technology, and what it means to stay human in the age of AI. We're speaking with founders, technologists, and thinkers who are navigating the shift toward an AI-powered economy. Today's guest is Randy Carr, CEO of World Emblem. World Emblem is the largest manufacturer of emblems and patches for uniforms and apparel, producing hundreds of millions of products each year across a global footprint. Randy has led the company through trade disruptions, reshoring decisions, and rapid scale, while managing a workforce that spans continents and cultures. Randy, welcome to the show.
Chris, thanks for having me.
So I always like to start off with my guest's origin story, if you will, kind of your history, how you got into what you're working on, your history in the business leading up to today.
Yeah, no sweat. So 6 months of college, and my father had a company doing what we're doing, and that was in 1993. The company went under. The company went under in 1990, pulled us out of school. We restarted World Emblem, my father, my brother, and I, in 1993 in Medley, Florida. And just, my father passed away in 2000, and fast forward to now, and we have 1,600 employees in 5 countries. We make over 1 million emblems a day. Everything's custom, one-piece minimums. And the majority of the reason we're able to do what we do so quickly is through the use of strong technology and strong process.
So talk a little bit more about that. Was that always the case with the company, or was that something you brought in when you took over?
No, I think it was, the reason its company went under is you just kind of saw, the underinvestment in tech. And it wasn't that tech was such a strong thing in 1990, but there was still some technology, with embroidery. What we do, it was like card punching equipment to program embroidery machines. And as computers, not even the internet, but computers started to become relevant, even that underinvestment caused my father's business issues. So when he restarted the business, I just naturally gravitated to that as a way to mitigate that problem. And, clearly, technology has been the driving force of the economy over the last 35 years, and particularly no more impactful than it's been over the last 3. So the answer is, it was something that I brought in when I started in the business and got heavier and heavier over time.
So what were some of the first implementations of technology that you wanted to make that started changing the direction of the company?
So, for somebody my age, I'm 53. So, the first thing, I bought a laptop, and we wrote, using Lotus Approach, our own accounting system. They were doing everything on green boards and green sheets. And, so I wrote our own accounting system, Lotus Approach, and then I wrote a quoting system in Lotus Approach. And then in 1994, we built our first website. And I did it in what was HTML at the time. So just little things like that, but doing that, teaches you to understand data structure and databases and some moderate programming languages, which, I'm not a developer by any means, but, it's allowed me to see things in that structure, which has made things very easy for me to have conversations with my dev staff and with my BAs and people like that.
So let's look a little bit more at the recent years. So obviously last 5-6 years have been pretty wild in terms of the changes in technology, but also global events, geopolitics, a lot of things going on that obviously have a huge impact on manufacturing. Talk about how you led your company through that and where you saw opportunities to kind of lean on the technology to make things easier and survive some of these wild changes.
So, there's a lot of answers to this question. If you ask me yesterday this question or tomorrow, you might get a different answer. But I'm going to give you So the first thing is, technology's always been part of the business, but it's not the business. So there's some people in the business that say we're a tech company that makes emblems. I don't actually buy that. I just think we heavily invest in technology to disrupt the business. But that investment alone isn't really enough, because we're such a heavy manufacturer there's a lot of manual processes still. So yeah, the answer really was for us after COVID, we knew we couldn't raise prices fast enough to compete with inflation. And
Mm,
technology alone wasn't going to solve that problem. So we went to the University of Kentucky's True Lean program and brought in a group of their professors, sent our people to the school. And then what we did is we combined the Toyota production system or lean manufacturing with our tech stack. And over the last 5 years have been able to increase our gross margin, increase our consistency to turn time, increase our on-time performance by almost 15 points, and are consistently now delivering like 99% on-time performance. So those two things together were really the catalyst to where that's gotten us to where we are today.
So you guys are based in a number of different countries. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and how challenging that was, particularly say during COVID
Yeah.
when things were shutting down?
Yeah, it was, I think for everybody, COVID was a little bit wild. But we have a maquiladora in Mexico. It was difficult traveling back and forth. Obviously, when COVID first hit, just traveling was, nearly impossible. And then when it picked back up, you were the only person traveling. So I wouldn't say that was the big issue. It was things like the 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 remote office workers, and even that technology wasn't the problem. It was the culture issues that we were having. The drop off in revenue. You had to find products that were, our core market dropped 80%. So we
Mm,
went right into face masks way before everybody else. And we had a windfall of face masks and then pivoted to branding face masks and then pivoted to security suits. And then by the time we were through all that, it was vaccine time and everything started to come back. So, and then
mm.
GDP helped. So it was a lot of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But let me add one more thing. During that time, everybody was so slow. We did do a lot of disruptive technology investments that we were planning on doing, but we just sort of throttled them forward.
Mm.
Because, clearly you're either going to finish, we're either going to get to the end of COVID or the world's going to end. And we knew when we got to the end, we would value that investment. And we did. So like we did a full e-commerce upgrade to our platform. We jumped like 10 years on our ERP back end. Normally I would have tested it more, but because our revenue was down so much, it was easier for us to
Mm.
make the upgrade and not have a big impact on customers.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So when decisions move faster than most organizations can adapt, what would you say good judgment looks like? What makes you able to make these decisions? Obviously, take the COVID one, for example, choosing to make investments at a time when everyone else is just holding on
Yeah.
tight and for dear life. How do you make those decisions as a leader?
It's cliche, but it really is cliche because I made a ton of bad decisions. Like I can give you a whole
Mm,
handful of them, but I think that one was fairly obvious. Like I said earlier, we knew this was either going to come to an end at some point, and we would still need, a current ERP platform in order to continue driving the business forward. So it's just so obvious that when you're slower to focus on those things, again, I'm in YPO, so my forum was a very good resource to me. So, I also have a lot of good leaders in the business, so I'm very fortunate in that respect. But, we did stupid stuff like we said $500,000 to a company that said they had face masks and they didn't have them and they never delivered them. They took our money. So believe me when I tell you, nobody, we made a lot of stupid decisions too during that time. And we're probably still doing it today. But I think if you go back to what I said earlier about the Toyota production system and the lean manufacturing, that whole thing is about alignment in the business and
mm,
even structuring your decision-making processes so that they're organized and they cascade up and down using proper information at the current moments. Where we are 35 years into this, we're just better. We're just better and we're continually learning to use information to help us make our decisions and the right information, not just a pile of millions of gigs of data. So it's having the right data at the right time to make the right choice for the right person.
mm, mhm. So is technology kind of a cultural thing with you guys? Do all parts of your organization feel that and look at technology as that beneficial or helper to them?
Look, I feel like you're leading to this thing. And yes, the answer is yes. And I, even say, like, as a matter of fact, I brought in an AI as a service direct leader in the business,
Mm,
specifically because we knew that this thing's happening so quickly. And I'm going to jump to that for a second because the AI in the business is happening so fast. People aren't adopting it as fast as I want. And it's disrupting everything so quickly that we want to support the disruption. So
Mm.
the answer to your question is yes, but only because we see the benefits of it, or I see the benefits of it, and and I have to propagate that through the business.
How do you maintain your company culture through that? Especially given how disruptive.
That's part of the culture. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, first of all, it's so obvious. 700 million people using ChatGPT every day. Like
Yeah.
unless you're hiding in a closet, like you already know this is coming. So I'm very, very clear about how I communicate with my staff. I mean, we have a Viva channel, so I'm on Viva every day talking about it. I write a newsletter to my staff every day. I do a personal interview with a staff member every other week, and I post that. So I think I'm very transparent about what my position is about technology in general and the
Mm.
benefits of using it. So there's no
Mm.
ambiguity about the direction we're headed as a company. And, the obvious next question would be, well, what about people that are scared for their jobs? And the answer is, and again, it's cliche, everybody kind of knows this, but, before Facebook existed, and there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of jobs that have come from, if you go back to Kodak, for example, it's an easy example, but Kodak's a business that had cameras,
Mm.
and had film. They're gone. That company
Mm.
doesn't exist anymore in the way it does. But the new economy that exists is Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, and the millions of the maker economy that's been surrounded because of that. So, the easy answer is yeah, like the current model is about to be destroyed, but
Yeah.
thousands of jobs are going to be created that no one really knows about because of this stuff. And that's kind of the way I explain it to people. And like, that we brought in this AI as a service role specifically to upskill everybody in the business. So they're prepared to use these tools to help us better ourselves. So yeah, things are going to be different. That's my answer. I don't know how different yet.
Yeah. Really, really focusing on the augmenting of your existing staff, right?
Well, it's
Rather than
hard.
replacing.
Yeah,
Well,
it's hard stuff because everyone's looking at this from a different point of view. Some people are insecure about
mm.
it. Some people are not tech friendly. And some people might not be here in 3 years now because of it. And I don't promise that they will be. I promise I'm
Mm.
going to give them the best shot to educate them. But
Yeah.
we look at this like, we're gonna field the best team we can every day to win the game we're trying to play. And my job is to develop our staff to make sure they're ready to play that game
Do you encourage employees to explore some of the tools on their own and bring new ideas to the table?
in the angriest way possible. And I'm vicious about it. Like, so as much as I can. But this is also a busy group. But I would say I spend more money on technology. I think we spend 10% of our revenue on tech. Comparative businesses in my space is about 3%. So
Mm.
our numbers we're not the same by any means. When I go through our balance sheet and I look at the amount of money that we've capitalized on technology, the numbers are ridiculous. And like, I cringe. I cringe because you have to wonder, is the ROI really there? Like, as a shareholder, am I doing a disservice to the shareholders? Could we be better off taking the money and investing it in a fund? Because it's
Mm.
7 figures sometimes. And I think that the business continues to grow and we continue to have, uh, put ourselves in the best position, uh, you know, for the future. And I just think that's right now, I don't think we've ever been in a more disruptive time in the history of the world than we're about to be in today.
Do you feel like others in your industry see this? I know you say that 3% is the
No,
average.
I definitely don't.
Is anyone else seeing?
So I have some
Right.
customers. I have a couple customers they're legit, that are just ballers, and they get it. They really do get it. And then I have other clients, or I have other suppliers or competing customers that they got their head in the sand. So
Mm.
I think it's philosophically where you're coming from as the leadership team. And look, I think I overdo it, to be fair. And there's many days where I think if I just did nothing, we'd be better off. So sometimes I think I'm guilty of over investing or over committing. But on the off chance that I'm right about one of these things, it'll catapult us to the next level. And I just think that I'd rather disrupt us than have someone else do it to me.
Do you have a system or a framework that you use to decide which problems deserve automation
Yeah.
versus
So
remaining human?
we use, again, we're going to go back to Toyota production system and lean, and they have something called 8-step problem solving. So we use the 8-step problem solving methodology, which runs you through a series of 8 steps, and it drives you through this kind of hard decision process. And we use our org chart and use roles and responsibilities in the business so that, you know, you're solving problems in your business unit or as an individual or globally. So yes, we do run them through that model, and then we'll decide where we think we can get that ROI and where, is it a customer facing issue is always the first thing. The second thing is
Mm.
really what is the financial impact of the business? Is it cost aversion or growth? And the third one is this something long term we think needs to be automated? Like robotics is a big thing right now. Like
Mhm.
robotics, we haven't touched it. We
Mm.
haven't touched it. We don't have the resources. We don't have the time. I feel like I'm going to regret it. But we haven't gotten to it. So the answer is yes, we do have a framework. It's the best framework we have today.
It's fascinating you say you feel like you're gonna regret it when, like, it's still so early on robotics,
But so
like,
is
but
so
yeah,
so is agentic. So is agentic and generative AI 4 years ago when we started with this.
yeah.
So we've been messing with this, like the week ChatGPT came out, I think it was like maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. We were
Mhm.
all over it, like all over it. So
What has surprised you about applying data and automation at the scale that you do?
what a mess it can become so fast. If
Mm.
going back to the earlier conversation about structuring the data or making the decisions about structuring data, and finance people understand you set a chart of accounts up wrong, you're going to live to regret it for 20 years. And unwinding some of these choices is really difficult. So, getting the data structure right and understanding what you're trying to achieve in the beginning and how like one of those choices you go down this path, it's really hard to track back to where you
Mm.
started. And even when you do track back to where you started, you have to unwind all these decisions. I'm still living with sins from 15 years ago in item schema structuring and price structuring. That's
Mm.
just basic table build outs in the business. So I'll tell you one more thing that I found, like maybe this week, that I found to be interesting. I personally use ChatGPT and Perplexity and a couple of these things. What's happening to me is I'm moving so fast and I'm able to do so much more that I can't keep up with how much I'm able to do.
Mm.
I can't remember half the stuff that I'm telling people to do anymore because I'm not really doing any deep thinking about like, I'll rip through 3 contracts and a proposal in 20 minutes. And
Yeah.
this used to take 5 hours. So what's happening is I don't even remember what I'm telling people anymore. So I'm having to develop a system to remind me, "Hey, man, you sent this contract out, that contract, you're waiting for this to come back." So that's what I'm really struggling with, how much I'm able to do. And I'm also taking more on
Mm.
because I'm like, all right, I don't need Doug at this. I could do it faster myself. And it's really starting to weigh on me. It's starting to, I mean, I was talking to somebody 20 minutes ago. I'm like, yeah, it's just the amount of work seems to be growing, not reducing because of it.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, and I see a lot of reports about, signs of cognitive decline that can come with LLM use, and that you're basically outsourcing the thinking to the point where that time, that 5 hours you'd have spent thinking through a problem, well, that burns things into your permanent memory, right? Your long-term
That's
memory. Now
exactly
you
what's happening.
blow through it in 20 minutes and yeah.
And that's what I mean about systematizing, even systematizing myself to make sure I know what I'm doing. Like, that's kind of my
Mhm.
thing right now. Like, and I only realized it's happened to me, like, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's pretty incredible. So as a company that's producing hundreds of millions of units, where do you feel like humanity will remain in the loop, in the process going forward, at least say the next 5 years?
I think the easiest areas to automate, we're gonna automate. Customer service, sales, delivering data to customers on e-commerce is a really important one to us. The design work, scheduling work, material utilization, logistics, purchasing, finance, those areas are gonna be disrupted. I mean, we're going
Mm,
after all of them. So, I mean, every single one of them, I'm attacking all of them, multi-threaded. So
mm.
in the next 5 years, I think those are the ones that are gonna get blown up.
So where would you say the human remains?
People ask me that question. I said, I would go to a trade school if I felt that way. I'd go to, so you're asking me, I think anything that
Mhm.
requires dexterity and sales. So I think in my opinion, and this is just an opinion, people buy from people and people buy from people they like more than anything else. So, I think that, those of us that are willing to engage with other people, And Dale Carnegie said this 120 years ago, and it's still true today. Like that's, so people buy from
Yeah.
people. And
Yeah.
so, but I think every area you can automate is going to get automated. I think the data, where data is allowed, where data is permissible. If you get your data right, you're going to change a lot of stuff in your organization. So structuring data, back to that same thing we talked twice already, but strong data structure is going to.
Mhm. No, it really is fascinating how it seems like this recent push towards technical skills, and now all of a sudden it's the soft skills, it's the people skills, it's relationships, it's blue collar work that suddenly it seems like the only way to go in going forward.
Do you watch South Park ever?
I did a lot when I was young.
Mm. Well, these guys there's an episode where they have the plumber and I mean, they have the accountants and the lawyers in a parking lot at Home Depot saying, we'll do your taxes. We'll do your taxes. We'll do your taxes. Like, I guess
Yeah.
the plumber or the electrician is driving a Mercedes pulling in. So these guys they're the modern day Shakespeare's, but
Mm.
the understand is that strong trades are going to be the areas that I think are going to be most successful.
Yeah. Yeah. So back to your business. How do you design systems to keep the humans involved accountable when the machine is doing so much of the work? How do you make sure that the outputs are actually remaining at the level of quality that you need?
All right, first of all, we measure everything. And I'm going to go back to, again, Toyota Production System or Lean, having strong roles responsibilities, everyone understanding where they fit in the org chart, and very strong KPIs, the right KPIs for the right role, and making sure those KPIs roll up through the business to the frontline leaders. So we have a reverse org chart where I'm at the bottom, and the frontline leaders, the salesperson or the operator of the machines, all the way through their team leader, supervisor, to the manager of the plant, to me. Strong KPIs. So every single role in the business is measured hour by hour, and then day and week. And so the way to the way to keep doing that is to keep adjusting the measurements, keep measuring and improving.
Yeah. So what is a leadership mistake that you see other companies making as AI starts to take a bigger role in their organization?
I think the biggest thing is to not communicate clearly what you're trying to do. If you're, and I'm going to repeat what I said earlier, but I think like as you go through trying to automate or trying to implement these tools that are still really new, um,
Mm.
you have to communicate to your staff what's happening.
Yeah.
They know, and the majority of the time they're scared they're going to lose their jobs. That's the first thing that's going through their heads.
Yeah.
So the way to avoid that is to upskill and communicate. Upskill, cross train, communicate, develop. So I think the biggest mistake is that people do this single threaded.
Mm.
Um, and they go at one area and they think that, that's going to solve, it might solve a particular problem, but culturally it creates a whole nother thing. What we're doing is we're going at it across the entire board. Like, I'm being very clear that we're attacking this at every possible level in the business, and we're going to train and upskill you. So yeah, I think the biggest thing is to just communicate about what your intentions are.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that's exactly what I've been thinking and saying, and there's that worry of I deemed it silent sabotage in my book. This idea that employees will, if they're not told the purpose or the reasoning behind these automations, they'll fear for their job, and they'll either not use the tools that you're giving them, or they'll do it in a way that makes it look like the AI is the problem, right? To protect themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the purpose is to break your own business. The idea is you got to break your own business in order to grow. It's no different than physical fitness or anything like. It's a
Mm.
pressure to get to continue to grow these individual departments or just the overall organization.
Do you see yourself? Do you occasionally? I guess obviously not to name names, but you know, running into people within the organization that are just averse to change in general, or is that something that you really looked for when you were hiring?
Well, no, again, we have a lot of people, so it changes over time. We weren't smart hires at the beginning. At the beginning, you just hired
Mm.
people. Then you get a little smarter. You get a little smarter. So now we're really particular about who we bring in. So yes, now we're very careful about that. But do I think we're going to disrupt people? And that was the question, right? Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I think people are going to be. I think people. Not everyone's going to get to the end of this journey. And some people by choice, and some people by choice of the business.
Yeah.
I said earlier, we're looking to field the best team. I parallel a lot of stuff with sports. So, championship teams, they build championship rosters and they build championship players and systems that support that. And I
Yeah.
have a championship team here. So the job is to upskill everybody in the team to play at that level. And unfortunately, not everyone's going to make it through every season. And, all I can do is train, and give them the chance to do it. But, we're going to look different. We're going to look different in 5 years than we look today.
Yeah. And you try to find opportunities for your best players to work within the system or the organization, even if it's not where you brought them on to work, right?
100%. I mean, we just did a complete reorg of 2 departments here, and a lot of people that are in different roles. And the thing is, look, man, you're now in a different job. We're going to upskill you for that job. You have the characteristics to do that job, and it may not be a tech job, but it's still a job that needs to be done. And again, our job is to make sure people have the skills to do that work, and they know what they're measured against, and they have a standard process. Because if you have a standard process, so you know how to do the work, and you know how you're measured against that standard process, and you know whether you're doing a bad job or a good job, then it's a question of introducing automation or tools in order to increase those KPIs to get the output up. And that's every role in every business, whether you're a doctor or an emblem maker.
Yeah, it's interesting how AI, what we're seeing is kind of this return to it being almost more valuable to be a generalist. We had been putting so much emphasis on becoming a specialist before, but now it's the flexibility. It's being able to understand multiple things at once and move around.
It's crazy. It's actually awesome.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. So I'll let you out of here on this. This will be our final question. So what gives you optimism about the future we're moving into and the next generation of leaders and workers?
It's tough. I can only say it in my world. I think the things we're doing are giving us the best chance to succeed in any industry that we get into. And we're always looking for new opportunities. So I think because we're upskilling our people to use these tools, that for us, the future is very bright. It's tough. I watch the news quite a bit. So, I stick to Bloomberg and the reports are conflicting. So I don't know, I'm a Peter Diamandis, Tony Robbins, fan. So I think the world is full of abundance, and I think that's the direction we're going. But I think the next couple of years are going to be rough. I think there's going to be a lot of change, and and people, you're either leaning into it or you're rejecting it. World Emblem leans into it, and I lean into it personally. I think people that reject it, they're going to have a harder time than us.
Yeah. I think I tend to agree with that sentiment. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Randy. I really enjoyed this. Can you tell the listeners where they can find you, learn more about you and World Emblem?
Yeah, I'm at my LinkedIn is at Carr Randy. And you can find me Randy Carr at World Emblem. It's worldemblem.com. And just reach out to me anytime for anybody that's interested. I'm happy to talk about this stuff. I love it, and it's always fun.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. And if you found this conversation useful to our listeners, please subscribe, follow, and leave us a review. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, stay human. Thank you for listening to this episode of Human Work After AI. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast provider so you never miss an episode, and we'll see you next time.